Noble Promise here. Good afternoon. It's actually nighttime, and this will be another reading of My Ancestor Speaks, the life, death, and spirit of Emmett Till. Rain is threatening a bit. I felt some drops, but we are getting the shots and getting the reading in. Let me start with the South was strangling for the American Negro. There was little opportunity to compete in the larger economic markets because of segregation, the dire lack of employment opportunity and restrictive covenants in housing, inferior educational resources, and the other most important areas of life were all being compromised. The tentacles of deeply ingrained discrimination in the South would be in direct opposition to the perpetual motion of activists for ensuring changes were made. The civil rights movement in the South was snowballing in spite of the dangers and killings of its soldiers. That term soldiers is also familiar to those who marched from Selma to Montgomery. I actually walked that distance for the 50th anniversary, and to meet those 1965 foot soldiers that walked to the Capitol in Montgomery was captured on video and an honor. Let me read on. We're talking about the tentacles of deeply ingrained discrimination in the South. In the case of Emmett Till, we're deeply talking about Mississippi. It had its own special, quote-unquote, brand of horror as an offering. Back to the reading. The civil rights movement in the South was snowballing in spite of the dangers and killing of its soldiers. Even as noted, passive the civil rights movement attempted to be in its quest for equality, many died in the streets, in the woods, and people like Medgar Evers died in his driveway, which is a historic site that I visited. Back to the story. He was a fearless former World War II veteran, along with his brother, Charles Evers. Charles Evers, author of book No Fear. Medgar Evers was the secretary for the Jackson, Mississippi National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. His brave, noble exploits fighting locally organized and unorganized purveyors of systemic racism. The brand of widespread racism during the times of Ancestor Till were born of a privilege beyond that of the Negro. Like with slavery, hierarchical systems, there were enticements for one moment, enjoy the scenery. Okay, we're back, and shooting in the darkness has its changing of the aesthetic of the video. let me go forward dealing with the technology. And we have some bugs here at nighttime coming out. It's after 9:15 this moment. Like with slavery hierarchical systems, there were enticements for non-Negroes to capitalize on the commodity of slavery. To become someone more relevant and successful in a social system designed to normalize prejudice and worse, gave way and enforcement to whites-only signs in public, illegality of a simple walk on the pavement for any given moment, which was being used by Anglo-Saxons, became a criminal offense. The demand that Negroes drink from separate water fountains and the sitting on buses with pre-selected and most unfavorable spots to rest and relax. It was Dr. Martin Luther King who said, "I have never seen, even in Mississippi and Alabama, mobs as hostile and as hate-filled as I have seen in Chicago." As an aside, it was during the summer of 1966 that Dr. King put his name and whole effort into supporting residents fighting for fair housing practices in Chicago. The poison of whatever ills of tormenting people were there and down south, the abusive and toxic manners seemed excessive even, as one was exposed to the tenets of a socialized depravity that in many forms still exists today. Chicago today is still recognized as America's most segregated city. And ironically, the Chicago that Emmett Till saw was a world that had its obvious challenges also. Although a boy, Emmett Till was of the age to have witnessed one of the most hate-filled assaults upon the African-American community in Chicago during his childhood. What occurred was a riot. Let me stop there. The embellishment of that point, as we are listening and considering how to best structure paragraphs and sentences, how to correlate the messaging to make common thoughts blend together into a well fabricated narrative. That's our goal. Taking a moment just to re-explain that these daily readings are of the second rough draft of My Ancestor Speaks, the life, death, and spirit of Emmett Till. We're celebrating daily. Daily, we're celebrating the month in which Ancestor Till was born, the month of July. He was born July the 25th, 1941.